Hey everyone, welcome to episode 30 of the ATDev Podcast. So happy to be joined today by Andrew McPherson, PhD, a longtime friend and a real force in assistive technology. Hey Drew, how's it going?
Hey Owen, it's going great. Yeah, great to see you. I'm stoked to be here and chat with you about all the projects and hear what's going on there.
Yeah, same here. And so, yeah, it would be great if you could maybe give us just a little bit of background on yourself and, yeah, for our listeners, what are you working on?
Sure. I think core to what I do has just been my experience of having a spinal cord injury, getting paralyzed 19 years ago now when I was just out of high school and figuring out what I was doing from that and worked on, played with different, I guess, circuits and electronics and like going to the maker fair and just learning how to breadboard and play with that. And then I
Yeah,
kind of wound into going to school doing mechanical engineering and specifically in assistive tech. I was like, hey, that's a way I can make my life easier and hopefully other people's too.
absolutely. Yeah, I think a theme that definitely I've seen is people with disabilities that are inclined towards engineering. They seem to often gravitate towards assistive technology because it has such a tangible impact on not only their lives, but also people in the same space. Was there a particular moment when you decided to really pursue engineering and assistive technology?
Yeah, engineering just seemed like it was interesting to me. I think right
Right.
off the bat, I gravitated towards math and science and things, but I did think I would do more environmental engineering. And
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I think somewhere between automating, like doing some home automation and trying to make things simpler for me, and meeting some other folks and starting the Enable Tech at Cal, which is
Yeah.
a student org doing assistive tech. I think it just snowballed. I don't know. I don't remember one particular moment as opposed to, yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many unsolved challenges and it just
Yeah.
seemed like a very tangible space. And yeah,
Yeah.
kind of,
Absolutely.
I like the idea of necessity is the mother of all inventions. You know, just making life easier and my own, yeah, really wanting to be more independent myself often drives a
Yeah.
lot of my ideas or things I work on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. And you mentioned Enable Tech, which was a student group that you founded and, yeah, focused on assistive technology. Can you talk a little bit more about Enable Tech and what was that like? Which is where we met.
Yeah, yeah, way back when, like 2015. That's 10 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, yeah. That came out of being in engineering, like mechanical engineering design classes, and founded it with Francisco Peralta and Kevin, and just seeing both like that we were wanting to design assistive tech projects when you're given design prompts or just a kind of an open prompt in these engineering design classes. And it's why not make some, if you're going to make something, why not make something useful?
Right.
And also, can we have an ecosystem that can support those designs or prototypes after the class? Because lots of times you can only get to the early fidelity prototype that hopefully is functional, often not. So, wanting to kind of have that tinkering and support group and meet like minded people, and also having lots of friends in the community that maybe weren't specifically in the engineering classes often ask, hey, can we build this? Or hey, do you know somebody who could help me build this thing? And so why don't we take these design challenges and pair folks who are trying to build or adapt something in their house with some engineering students and play matchmaker and try to see if we can make useful things. So that was
Yeah.
really the ultimate
Yeah.
desire out of it.
Yeah. I think it's so cool. And it's such a awesome way to introduce students that are in engineering or otherwise to assistive technology and bringing people into the idea of designing things for people with disabilities that have a real impact, and whether or not the students go on to biomechanics or whatever engineering discipline that they were doing. I think just the process of designing, for people with disabilities, you learn just so much about human-centered design and the
Yeah.
iterative process. It's really enable tech, I think, has introduced so many people to really important concepts.
Yeah, I think there's so many benefits, I feel like, for everyone involved, because there's some of the engineering students, a lot of the students seem to come in and they're maybe had experience with a family member or a friend who had a disability, and sometimes not, but it seemed like lots of times there was. But you know, how maybe they're working with a community member with a disability, it's almost like an end user or a subcontractor where they get to have direct feedback, and there's the back and forth and like testing, and is what you think the problem is really the problem, and is what
Right,
you're making actually helpful. But then I think the other direction too, there's like lots of good friendships that come out of it. There's like the kind of advocacy
yeah,
and awareness of how other people live, and how other people interact with things. So yeah, if they end up being a product designer as well, like just a more critical eye of, hey, not everybody's going to use this thing that you're making the same way that you think they are. Like,
right,
let's have a process to think through that.
absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the things I learned is really focusing on defining the problem rather than finding a solution, because having a really good problem statement is half of the solution right there.
Yeah, yeah. And can take a long time, like the process. And sometimes you start on one thing, and as you're trying to work on solving or coming up with something around that, you end up finding something way more meaningful or interesting to solve or contribute to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you recently completed your PhD. I would
Hmm.
love to hear a little bit more about what was your dissertation about.
Yeah, yeah. It was a long process, but happy to be wrapping that up or have wrapped that up.
Yeah, I bet.
The it started out with focused on grasping assistance. So I have a C5 spinal cord injury, so I don't have use of my hands. I have some wrist motion, but no finger or actual grasp, so I can't grab onto things. So a lot of it was working on augmenting the grasp that people with this partial paralysis have and making devices to aid in that. So primarily powered, partially robotic hand exoskeletons to help grab and manipulate objects, and then doing a lot of assessment of how does that impact like compensatory motion, and are you going to hurt and throw out your shoulder because now you've locked your wrist in a certain position. So looking at
Interesting.
that. Yeah, yeah. And then also just didn't do a deep dive in, but often something that we would look at is like, how do you control the devices? And I think that's still a pretty open question of that user intent, especially with the hands. It's like legs are easy, they're relatively easy, they're repetitive
Right.
motions. Whereas the hands, you might be manipulating all kinds of objects. So I think that the second half was really about assessment and still putting some data together from we did, or analyzing the data. We did a home study where we took one of the robotic devices into 10 different people's homes for 5 hours and would
Oh,
have them
interesting.
do both tabletop assessments, but then some of the activities of daily living or doing different things in their kitchen and their bathroom, moving around to see how that would integrate, or if it we can say it's really useful to pick up 25 blocks in 1 minute, but like how does that actually translate to doing
Right.
something useful is a question.
Yeah, most
Um,
people don't need to pick up 25 blocks every minute in their
yeah,
daily
not
life.
No, not exactly. Unless you're eating chocolates really fast. Uh,
Yeah, which is not a bad thing.
no, no. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that there's really a big problem of intent for assistive robotics, and
Hmm.
particularly in locking exoskeletons, which is something that we have looked into. It's the gate algorithms are somewhat there, but really the bottleneck is the latency between the brain and the exoskeleton, and really until we have a Neuralink or IOTA or something like that online,
Hmm.
I think the real Iron Man type suits are held up by that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tricky problem with the neural links and the IOTAs, and directly sensing from the brain has its own kind of threshold to entry,
Right.
but is, yeah, a meaningful way and an interesting way. And I think that's one of the most exciting places is this kind of neurotech area where like you can both be sensing in the brain, you can also be stimulating in the brain. You, you can induce these greater kind of neuroplasticity states, and you're getting much higher repetitions. Especially, in my opinion, the sweet spot is can you have something that's assistive, so it helps you in your ADLs, but it also gives you that like more motion. Like you're really doing rehab at the same time as you're going about your day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's huge. We look a lot into gamifying physical therapy. That's on the horizon for our reflex device, and really just movement is so important, no matter
Yeah.
what you're doing. One of the best ways to stay in shape, whether you have a disability or not.
Yeah, and you only got 24 hours in the day, so if you would need to do that exercise, say 5 hours a day, like that's even an hour every single day is a pretty high ask for people who
Yeah,
maybe for short term, if the rehab only takes, who knows, 6 months or a year, somebody may be willing to keep at it for that long. But certainly if you do the
yeah,
same thing over and over again and it's boring and you're not seeing huge progress, that's a tedious process to stay engaged in.
yeah, it sure is. Yeah. Yeah, I think you've been just at the cutting edge of so many research endeavors and engineering. I'm really curious to know what are some technology trends that are happening now that you're really excited about, both from a personal perspective as a disability, as someone with a disability, and also professionally. What really are you excited to see in the engineering fields that you're working in?
Yeah, yeah. I think I had a very hard time deciding what exactly I was doing post spinal cord post PhD, just because it was
Yeah.
like, what is an avenue or space? And went and interviewed for a lot of postdocs and checking that out. And I think we are in an interesting time right now where robotics have, I don't know if I'd say that it's not that the technology has hugely developed, so there's a big leap
Mhm.
forward that all of a sudden is unlocked. But I think on the kind of neurotech side, so just so much more, I guess, interest in neuroscience and different
Right.
ways. Like there's still a lot that we don't know. I personally have paid a lot of attention to spinal cord injury and neuromuscular disorders, and looking at this neuromodulation and different stimulation. At IOTA, they have a bladder stimulator that's in human trials.
Oh, wow,
That's just
interesting.
like these, yeah, non-pharmaceutical electrical stimulators that you can do a lot with. Certainly with spinal
Wow,
cord injury, the
that's
with
amazing.
onward, even Neuralink, like we know that it has to be involved with your intent or kind of engagement, but having these, yeah, I'm really excited about the electrical stimulation, whether implantable or peripheral, as well as I think computing power. So being able to
Right.
decode, having those neural networks, having those machine learning that we can decode a lot more when we have these weird data sets like the brain, where there's just a lot of signal, where there's some signal, a lot of noise, and a lot of data coming in to figure out what somebody's trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is an exciting time. I think, like when we were doing Enable Tech 10 plus years ago, Raspberry Pis were in the right first or second generation. Arduinos were pretty new. And yeah, I think it's been so exciting to see how quickly technology has developed and also seeing how that has really turned into tangible benefits for people with disabilities. And my life now is a lot easier and more comfortable thanks to technology than 10 years ago, certainly. And
Yeah.
yeah, it really does feel like we are on the verge of some like really exciting breakthroughs. And I think that eyes is kind of kind of the holy grail of that. Once you're able to unlock the brain, having a disability has a really different meaning.
Yeah, getting that direct kind of input from the thoughts. You can certainly not there. There's a lot to do to get a
For sure.
very specific reading, like, but yeah, it is a very cool space and very exciting. And even just the simple, you're saying Raspberry Pis and whatnot with the Ability Hacks, our nonprofit that we created after Enable Tech, still doing
Yes.
sharing these open source platforms like a voice activated hospital bed that I use all the time and just hacking up
But
different
yeah,
things. And
tell me more about that because I think hospital beds are I've been a big interest of mine. Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about ability hacks and the hospital bed project?
yeah, Ability Hacks is essentially our iteration of Enable Tech, but not as a student organization. So it's a nonprofit that we made here in the Bay Area specifically for getting folks with disabilities into the machine shop so they could work on their own things if they want
Hmm.
to and design their own things. So it's both engineering and design support or advice and mentorship and just sharing of projects. So we do online meetups and then in-person meetups and are sponsored by Human Made in San Francisco, which is a
Great.
new version of Tech Shop. So we're able to get folks in the shop. But yeah, it's really just about building these assistive tech solutions and sharing them and helping each other out, figuring it out. And one of the ones that I have been using for quite some time is have used Alexa and Google Home and now using one that doesn't connect to the web, but just using your voice to then control the features of a electric hospital bed. Just
Yeah,
super helpful. If you can manipulate your environment to you, then it makes me quite a bit more independent. And then
yeah,
having broken down and cut up a few different hospital bed controllers and posting those online and having making PCBs so we can send them out every here and there. I guess about a month ago somebody reached out with spinal muscular dystrophy and they were trying to figure out how to do it as well
mm,
just because we weren't able to use the specific controller they had and they got a new bed and so we can send them a PCB and it's not a product. It's not that it's not plug and play at
right.
this point, but it's, yeah, if you're interested and you want to figure out how to do it, we can help figure out how to make it happen.
That's awesome. I love that. Arthur, thank you so much for your time today, and it's always a pleasure to catch up. And I love the things that you're working on. And if people want to learn more about you and ability hacks, where can they go on the internet to learn more?
Yeah, you can find Ability Hacks at abilityhacks.org. We're a 501c3. Also have a Facebook page and Instagram. And then, yeah, I guess you could find me on LinkedIn, Andrew McPherson, or Yeah, that's probably the best option, or emails.
Great. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you, dude. Great to catch up.
Awesome. Thank you, Owen. Have a good one.
Yeah,
All
and thank
right.
you to our listeners. If you like this episode, please subscribe and share. And until the next one, take care, everybody. Bye bye.